We have to create the right vibe, the energy, and everybody at the organization has to feel so privileged to be here. It's no other way.
Thanks for listening to the Purely Arsenal podcast. Please follow us on Twitter at PurelyArsenalFP for all the latest Arsenal podcasts.
Welcome to another edition of a Purely Arsenal sit-down podcast. We're here to review the 3-0 comfortable win over Manchester United. And I'm joined by Neil Shah. How you doing, Neil?
I'm good, Jack. It was unfortunately 3-1, but it's...
Oh, 3-1! I say 3-0!
It's 3-0. We're getting excited. You see? You've got to
the first goal was offside as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, 3-1.
I've got my prediction right. I'm so happy.
You did get your prediction right. See, I only ever remember when it's mine. You did get your prediction right. Did you get first goal scorer right?
I didn't. I said Martinelli, but I don't care. I'll take 3-1. Thanks.
3-1's not best. 1-1 so far this season for predictions.
So, but I'm just drinking Ten Hag's tears at the minute, so I'm just enjoying it. So, cheers, Ten Hag. Love it.
Absolutely. I've also joined by Adam Keys, returning for the Purely Arsenal podcast from the Arsenal Therapy podcast as well. How are you doing, Adam?
I'm good, mate. Just like Neil, I'm drinking Ten Hag's tears this morning. I don't know what it is, but I was saying on our pod last night, he's quickly becoming my most disliked manager in the Prem. So I think every time we beat them is just going to be beautiful. And I'm feeling very, very good this morning. How are you feeling, Jack?
Yeah, I feel, because it's still the night for me, so it's almost like the same day, So I haven't really, adrenaline hasn't really dropped too much. And this is the first time I've had a chance to sort of think about it, because everything went crazy after the game and I didn't really get a chance to look at anything. And then I've had sort of 10 minutes. But amazing, really, when you went from effectively what could be, I think I said to Neil just briefly before you got on, Adam, we could have been 5 points adrift from the top. I know it's just 4 games in, but 5 points adrift from Manchester City is a mountain to climb, let's be honest.
Yeah.
And that really felt it was that way, and we'll get into why. And the flip that happened there is really quite significant, considering I don't think we've been anywhere near our best in the first 4 games. I think it could be really, really significant. Who knows? It really could. And I don't think we were at our best in this game either. But when you come away with a win like that in a big game, when you know you've not been at your best, though you should have won the game, and in the manner that we did it, I think you could tell what it meant to the players and what it meant to the manager, and I'm sure you were all going crazy just like I was, and rewatching the celebrations is just fantastic to see. So, but we should get into it because there's so much to talk about. We always start on this podcast just with is there anything to discuss on the lineup? And I guess the biggest thing to discuss, and I'll go to you, Adam, because Neil loves skipping the lineup questions. He bottles them, don't you, Neil? So I'll go to you, but obviously within 24 hours, all the ITKs have come out telling us about the level of Thomas Partey's groin injury, and I don't know how this information gets out or why. That's probably another talking point. Is it to the benefit of the club to release all this information? But it's about being first nowadays, not necessarily being accurate, right? But I just wonder what your thoughts were, Adam, on the Partey injury. It looks like it's not a simple groin injury, because otherwise they would be announcing it as that, I presume. So they're obviously doing further testing, and it might be more than just a few weaker, unless we're doing this just so we can skip international duty, which would be fantastic, but we don't seem to do that, right? Historically, Klopp and Pep, I'd be going, yeah, he's going to be back in 2 weeks, but with us, you worry a little bit longer. But I just wondered what your thoughts were, Adam, on that, of course, the injury itself, which is obviously very frustrating. Us going back to our tried and tested and beloved back four, Rice at the 6, and our decision to stick with Havertz at the 8, and Eddie got the run again at the top. What was your overall thoughts on the lineup, Adam?
Yeah, I liked it. I think what I'm hoping for with Partey is that it was just to try and keep the news out ahead of the United game. I guess we'll see. Hopefully it's not as serious, because we are here in a mix of 2 weeks to 3 months. And if further tests are being done, let's face it, none of those ITKs know anything about the injury. But to be fair, there's clearly a leak somewhere, because someone got that information on Saturday that he was going to be out. Although it was reported as a hamstring injury, then it was a groin injury. So hopefully we're not looking at too long, but that's just me being optimistic. It's the same thing every year with him. We see repeated muscular injuries, and that's the worry. I've seen people compare Jesus' injury, but that was a knee injury, very, very different. these are repeated muscular injuries that we can't rush him back. We kind of have to be so cautious of him, and it's time and time again a key period of the season. And I know he played 33 games last season, but did he really? He came off the bench in a few of those, and he hobbled through the last 7 or 8 games. So we got 20 good games out of him. But without him in the team, because I would have liked a midfield of him, Rice, and Odegaard, it was exactly how I would have lined up. I thought Nketiah deserved to keep his place. Great to see Zinchenko back, and I just love seeing Big Daddy back in the team. So yeah, really pleased with how we lined up in the end.
Yeah, I thought Gabriel was really good actually, and we'll talk about his little smooth criminal offside moment a little bit later. But I agree. Once Partey's injury had been officially announced, I think the team basically picked itself, which is surprising to say that because he basically shuffled the whole back four back to where we were. And he could have very easily done something different once again, the way Mikel Arteta has been working this season. But Neil, I thought we started well. What was your thoughts on the early part of that first half? I guess in it, you've got to talk about, what I thought was we were feeding Martinelli constantly, but I guess you've got to talk about that Havertz miss, because it was a big miss. It could have been costly, and he's really got to do better from there. And I just wondered if you can sort of elaborate on his overall performance, because soon after that miss, obviously he made a really costly error as well.
Yeah, I thought like Adam, I was pleased with the lineup in the sense of the formation. I thought we're back to basics again, or back to what we were last season with our style of play. I thought, in a way, it was a blessing that he was injured. Not in touch wood, he's going to be fine. But in a way, for the formation to go back to what it was, because I've not been comfortable at all with what he's been doing, with tinkering with it, and no. It showed as well. I thought we were a much more solid base in defence. I felt that the players knew their roles again, and they knew what they had to do to be more effective. The first half, just generally, I thought we played all right, but I thought we were giving them a little bit too much respect at times. I thought they're a team that's there for the taking, and I thought at times we were sitting back and letting them kind of control it from the back a little bit, and they were. They had like ridiculous numbers of passes. Even the goalkeeper was up there in the 30s with the number of passes. And I thought, just go for them. Go for the jugular. They're there for the taking. They're not exactly a great team at the moment. And I just didn't understand at times why we were kind of holding back just a little bit. But then, when we were moving forward and we were quite effective. But for me, that moment with Havertz, I thought, God, is it going to be one of those days? And I think with Havertz, guys, I just feel like he's trying too hard now. Now he's got the pressure on him. I think it's going to just get worse and worse. And I really do think this man needs to be coming on as a substitute. He needs a bit of time to compose, just to gather his thoughts again and compose himself. Because I feel that we have got better players at the moment in that position that are itching to come on and should be made use of. And that is my worry and that's my concern. And I really am starting to feel that it is the price tag that's keeping him on that pitch. Can you imagine if we got him for 20 million or something? I don't think he would still have been there in the fourth game. But then again, I don't know, you don't know what's going through Arteta's mind. But I just felt that miss for me was he should be landing that. That should be a proper shot, even if he didn't hit the target or just to miss the ball like that. For a professional to do this, it's not the best, and it's chances like that you've got to bury, especially against. We at the end of the day ended up being okay against Man U. But against City, we don't get many chances, and you've got to be taking chances like that. And if he's going to be a striker's kind of role or play a striker's kind of role, that's not the best. But I don't want to sit there tearing him apart. I just think he needs some time away. Maybe the international break's come at the right time for him. I don't know, but bring him on as a sub, please. Don't keep trying to get him to start and expect so much from him. His confidence is at such a low ebb as well. And it's a shame because that was quite a good move as well. And, Martinelli was doing all the right stuff. And then, of course, as you know, we probably want to talk about it with Adam, his wayward pass led to their first goal. So I was okay with the performance. I just thought that we were holding back at times a little bit and we shouldn't have been done. I think we should be taking teams like that, ripping them apart right from the off.
Yeah, I wonder. I was trying to work out why we were allowing so much passive possession to Man U, because they didn't want to go anywhere with it. They were time wasting very early on. They were taking the time. Onana probably held the ball without actually doing anything with it for the longest period in that first half. But like you said, usually we would press on it. Maybe if it was De Gea, we would. I don't know. But I also felt maybe we were a little bit reluctant because of some of our defensive frailties earlier in this season. You know, how we've been caught on a break. And in fairness, in Arteta's defence, although I completely agree with you, why aren't we pressing? Why aren't we trying to go for the ball? I felt in the first half, bar the mistake, I felt it was our best sort of defensive collective performance. Like, if you think back to the first half, they did absolutely nothing other than Rashford's goal. Like, nothing. It was all us. We perhaps didn't create as many clear openings as we could have, but we were by far the better team. Probably should have gone in one or two up, right? And I came out of it thinking, yeah, we need to be a bit more creative. We need to create a little bit more. But ultimately, we are not making any of those errors other than the one big one that cost us the goal. And we do seem to get, maximum punishment for these errors that we make. But I guess I should stick with Havertz, Adam, because he probably was the key part of that first sort of 25 minutes with the shot and then the mistake. Where do you stand on Havertz? I've obviously, I really want him to work out. My biggest concern is Arteta's stubbornness with all this. Just because you're dropping him or bringing him off the bench, like, doesn't mean he's a failure. There's a long way to go here. There's a process, and everyone's going to be at different stages in the process. I liken it to kind of when Willian was brought in from Arteta, and although we didn't have a clear, obvious, but at that time we felt Pepe and people like that were probably offering more, and he stuck with Willian all through the season, basically, and it really cost us, I felt. Obviously, we've moved on and progressed a lot since then, but I just wondered, it's really early for Havertz, but it is a big price tag. I thought he was pretty poor in this game. He had the least touches out of anyone, with 34 touches in the game, out of anyone that started the game, other than Aaron Ramsdale, outfield player. And I felt that clarifies that the game just passed him by, really. Am I being too harsh, Adam?
I thought it was a weird one because up until that miss, I thought he was quite good and he was pressing well. It's what he does off the ball is really impressive. However, from day one, I felt Havertz wasn't a midfielder. So I don't quite know. I think we've got the same problem that Chelsea have in that we don't know his best position. Chelsea's a whole other mess that there's other issues attached there, and I do think we got a massive talent that was very broken, and we need to repair that confidence. But I also think that right now, you've got Fabio Vieira, who has waited patiently. He's had a lot of abuse from the fans. He's really taken his pelters, and he's now 2 weeks in a row changed 2 games. And I think it's one thing, yeah, you want to keep Havertz' confidence, but at the same time, what about Vieira's? What does that say to him 2 weeks in a row? Get him in the team now, and I think Neil's right. The international break has come at a good time for Havertz because they passed for the United goal. That was just so complacent. It was such a lazy pass, and I think that's what really frustrated me. I've been very, very defensive of Havertz, but the pass, it was a nothing ball. It was that lackadaisical, just no idea where you're playing it to, or the kind of the importance of the pitch or what's behind you. Rice had gone forward at that moment. He had won the ball and started that kind of burst of pressure into the United corner. So he's out of position, and there's this massive gap. And Havertz is mature enough, he's experienced enough that he should be aware that there's a huge gap in the middle of the park. If you're going to speed it up, you need to get that pass in, zipped across the pitch, probably low with pace. If you're going to float it, you really need to get that right, because that's a suicide ball there. And even though we're so high up the pitch, it's the same thing. What you just said, we get maximum punishment. For some reason, we just seem to be cut open far too easily, and we can press and retain possession and pin people back. But one ball and we're open. And with Rashford on the pitch, there's kind of an inevitability about that goal whenever it happened, because it was just like, we are so much better than you. You've got that one option that we're all scared of, and that's exactly what happened. So for me, Havertz has to come out of the team at this point. I think Fabio Vieira has earned his chance, and it was just really horrible to see that pass, because it's a player so down on his confidence and so kind of, I think, unsure of his role as well. I think that's the other thing that comes into Arteta's stubbornness. There is that I'm going to play you as a left 8. I believe you're a left 8, and you're going to play there until you learn that role. And I hope he does. I think there's a talent there, but we just have to wait and see if he will ever come out. But right now, I think Vieira is the better option. And I think Vieira's earned it. He looks taller, sharper, stronger, and a lot of that's down to confidence, because I was looking at his body shape. He doesn't look like he's put on a huge amount of muscle, but for some reason when he gets the ball, he just looks bigger. And I think that is that confidence thing. It's the old cliche that players look 2 foot taller whenever they're full of confidence. And like if you look at Barcelona's team back in the day, they were tiny. They looked bigger than you because they were just so sharp, so fast, and so like confident in everything they did. And I think that's what we're seeing with Vieira now. So for me, sadly, I think it was a really, really bad day for Havertz, because it was 2 big moments in the first half that one would have put us 1-0 up, one put us 1-0 down. And unfortunately, this is top level sport.
Yeah, no, I agree with pretty much all of that. Neil, after Havertz loses the ball, Adam says we can get cut open very easily. Rashford's goal was the 7th time in 2023 that Arsenal conceded a goal from the first shot they faced, right? So what that's saying is when you look at, like, I don't like stats, I don't really like them, but the XG stat is relatively, which says what's your team's expected goals. That is relatively reliable. So basically, the XG basically says where you're going to finish in the table. Sometimes there's deviations, but it basically does. Man City had the highest XG last season, they won the league. We had the second highest, we came second. And it basically goes like that. And we don't concede a lot of expected goals to a lot of teams, but we get maximum punishment. And I think you have to ask questions, because I don't think this was a fantastic finish for Marcus Rashford. It was a decent shot, but I do worry a little bit about the fact that every time someone gets their first decent shot on goal, it seems to go in. And I've got to ask a little bit, and I think it's a little bit harsh on Ramsdale in this situation, but I do think the bigger picture across the board is we do seem to concede just like instantly when another team has a chance. And I think this is all on Havertz, to be honest, largely. But I do watch that and think, could he have got a stronger hand to it? I think I'm nitpicking on this one. But I think largely overall, I think there might be something to question. For example, I don't think Ramsdale had a lot to do today, but the other save he made in the second half, I think it was a relatively easy save from Rashford, and he parried it out to Marshall. And if Saliba hadn't been really clever, that could have been another goal for him, to be honest. I don't know if I'm nitpicking more because I know David Raya is waiting in the wings, but I question it a lot now, way more than I did when Matt Turner was there. So maybe it is because of that. I don't know. What's your thoughts on it?
It could be that because you want to see David Raya.
It might be. I'm aware of my slight.
There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. You know, he's an extraordinary keeper, and why wouldn't we want to see a talent like that between the sticks for us, and just to see how we get on with the team? So I don't blame you if there's a little bit of that. I mean, yeah, I agree with you in a way. I do agree with you about Ramsdale, but I don't know if. Oh God, this is so tough. See, I'm a big Ramsdale fan because I still know what he's capable of and how good he can be. But the only thing that I can see about Ramsdale, which is not what he had before, is his distribution isn't as clinical as it used to be. I remember the time when he first came on board and his distribution was unbelievable. We'd be like going, wow, did you see his distribution? And I feel that is starting to suffer a little bit. It just wasn't what it was. And it could be that even his performance has been affected. I would have thought when you know that you've got a competition behind you, you'd actually improve yourself. But I wonder if he's a little bit, it's at the back of his mind, and it's playing on his mind a little bit, and he knows that Rare's there. If he makes a bunch of mistakes, that's it. He's going to be sidelined. And I wonder if that's actually having a negative effect on him. So I get what you're saying, but I just feel too elated and too euphoric to be nitpicking about Ramsdale at the moment, because he did make the save. But you're right, and I did see that. I thought, oh my God, he's parried it straight to, which is unlike him because he never used to do that. I think that was more of a Leno thing, wasn't it? He used to be strong in the sense that he'd make a save and he would make the ball go away from the attackers. So I kind of get it. But you know what? Just going back to Rashford's goal, you can think I'm mad. I wouldn't mind him scoring against us because every time he does, We get a worldie, come back at them straight away. We had it with Saka last season, and then we've had it with Odegaard this season. So Rashford, score the first goal against us at the Emirates, we'll come and smack you back. It's great. I love it.
What was your thoughts on that team goal? Is it probably the goal of the game?
Oh, it's fantastic, wasn't it? It
Brilliant.
was fantastic. It was so fast. Was it 35 seconds after they scored?
Yeah, something like that.
That is the perfect response. Perfect. It was perfect. I was still like, oh, damn it, we've just conceded against them, and they're not a great team for me. I think they should, out of the bigger teams, they're the team we should be mullering properly. And I thought, well, maybe with the exception of Chelsea, we'll yet to see with that one. But I just thought, no. And then I was still going, no. And all of a sudden, I was like, what? Well, we're back. And then we all went mad, didn't we, on WhatsApp? Like, what the hell? Because of the quality of the goal. I think it was, who was involved? 4 players, Zinchenko, Eddie, Martinelli. And Martinelli's cross or assist. Oh. You know what? I feel like he's
through the legs, wasn't it?
Underrated. I feel that Martinelli, he's so good. I think he needs to be exploited more because he's that good. And I still feel we focus too much on Saka. And rightly so, because Saka is a worldie. But like you and I were saying before we came on, I don't think he's having the best form of his
poor game, Saka.
period.
He had a poor game.
I think the first 4 games, he hasn't been the ultimate Saka. He's still good because he's still checking the numbers.
Yeah.
Because he's so good, he's still going to do things. But I don't think he's been at his level, and he'd probably be the first to admit it. But I just feel that Martinelli's sometimes left out in the dryer. We've got to bring him in a bit more at times because he's so good at what he does. But what a goal! And Odegaard, you know what? I'm so glad he is captain because he's definitely leading by example. And that was some finish. I'm loving him. He's the kind of guy that you can look to kind of bring us back into a tricky situation. What a goal!
Yeah, it was really good to get level on terms, and with a goal like that, it was fantastic. Not dissimilar from last season. It didn't take us long to get back on level terms through Eddie and Nketiah, did it? And it just felt okay. We've been really good this half. Let's just carry on at where we were left off, and we did largely, and we could have very well gone in up, but we didn't. But that was a fantastic goal. Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any need to really sort of focus too much more on the Ramsdale. I didn't think he was particularly poor or anything. I do just worry every time someone has a first shot. I know Rashford's a very good player in terms of, and they are like the exact opposite. I feel like that they like the matchup against us, right? Because they are not really what a big team plays like. Like they like to play on the counter. They don't really want the ball very much, and they play off people's mistakes. All of their 3 chances, one of which was not a chance because it ended up being offside, were just pouncing on errors. And we do still make more errors than Manchester City. We don't make a lot, but we make more errors than Manchester City. And they absolutely, it's what they did in pre-season, wasn't it? I mean, it was basically all one-way traffic. Couple of errors, boom, they pounced on them. And they're very good at doing that. They don't play like a big club. They play like I'm just really surprised the way Ten Hag plays. I never really expected him to set up this way. I don't even remember Ajax setting up that way. But they really play like quite a negative style of football, and that's what's frustrating from my perspective. I think Arteta had a little bit of that in his sarcastic post-match comments, but I haven't re-watched it yet. But some of it reads off like that. But we went in at half-time 1-1. I felt we needed a really big second half. And oddly, we came out, and I thought we looked quite flat second half, Adam. We had a couple of chances of Odegaard from distance, Martinelli from distance, just went wide. And then the penalty incident happened. But did you think we were a little bit flat in the second half, Adam? I didn't really think we really went at them until we started to make those substitutions.
Yeah, it's a weird one because I think when you look at the game back and if you rewatch it, which I haven't done yet, I think what we'll see is a very calm, process-trusting, very, very mature performance where we fully believed we were going to beat them. And we got so much criticism for the emotion. And I think I personally was crying out for that, like fury and the emotion that we got last season. And I thought they're there for the taking. But actually, it felt like the players fully trusted their own ability and weren't going full throttle at United. I also think that we're seeing an evolution in the pressing game in that. So I had a look at Onana's numbers before we came on. Onana had 9% of United's passes yesterday. And that's a really, really high number for a keeper. In comparison, Ramsdale had about 2 or 3% of Arsenal. So I think we were more than happy to let them play because they just wanted that like deep block. Anytime we got the ball, they dropped back in. They had that out ball to Anthony on one side, who I actually thought was all right, and Rashford on the other, which was the long ball stretched the pitch. But for us, it was very much, it was that like controlled build up. We were just pinning them back in, and it was kind of getting more intricate at times, and then we'd go back again, and I actually felt for once we were using Martinelli on the left as much as Saka, because quite often we'll see Martinelli on one side just completely isolated with loads and loads of space, and I think that's something that Declan Rice is really good at, is those big switches across the pitch. And like switches are quite dangerous because unless you put the zip on them, everyone gets back in position. But I felt that we were really utilising the full pitch yesterday, and but I wanted the emotion that we didn't get, and I think whenever I look back at it, it felt like during the game we were playing at walking pace a bit, and then whenever the penalty happened, I thought this is kind of what we needed. And then obviously it wasn't given. But I don't know about you, but my initial reaction was I didn't celebrate. I celebrated every moment of this game. I was on the edge of my seat, really living it. The pen, I just sat still. I was like, this is going to be overturned. And my just gut reaction was, that is a bit soft. And when I watched it back and I saw the replays, Gary Neville repeatedly said he didn't think it should be overturned. He thought it was really harsh that it was overturned. And when I saw the replays, there is a touch from Wan-Bissaka. Yes, Havertz's leg does catch him as he's going through. There's two defenders coming through. And as anyone that's ever kicked the ball will know, if you're running at full pelt through a tight area, it's so easy to be knocked off balance. And the game isn't played at slow-mo. So this is what really annoys me when they're analysing contact with penalties and so on. Small touches make a big, big difference with attackers. And I thought it was a soft pen, but I thought it was really harsh to overturn it. I didn't think there was enough there to overturn the pen. And it was a big moment of the game. And I genuinely think had we have scored then, we go on to win that 4-1 because they're a really bad side. And as you said, I didn't see Ten Hag coming to United and playing this kind of football. I genuinely thought he would start playing much more intricate stuff, getting technical players on the pitch. But if anything, he is much more negative than Mourinho. It's that Mourinho played some nice football at United with Pogba and players like that in the team. But this Ten Hag system, it's aggressive. It's players like Martinez. He's a little prick. And it's just, it's such negative football. Players. And yeah, it's just, but I'm really glad because I really hate United again. And I had become a bit apathetic towards them as a club. And it's reminded me just how much I dislike United. I dislike the manager, dislike their players, and their fans have come out of the woodwork again. And they've got the lowest football IQ of any set of fans. And I include my mates in that here, United fans, because they're absolute idiots.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with a lot of that, to be honest. But I actually agree with you entirely on the penalty. I think you could definitely say it was soft, but it was incredible to overturn it once it had been given. That's the way I felt. When you look at what was overturned last season at Old Trafford when Martinelli scored, it's 100%. It's pretty ridiculous to see that is overturned. That's my opinion. I know some people have come out and said, well, I don't think it was a penalty. And I was like, no, it's the point is the overturning of it. Because there is, like you said, there is contact. I can't really tell if there's also contact from Casemiro in front of him. I'll say that there isn't because it looks like he comes across his path, to be honest. Because it's almost like a sandwich. But there's definitely contact to make him go down. He doesn't dive. He'd been booked if he dived. So he doesn't dive from it. So if you're looking at that and saying, well, the reason we're not giving it is because we don't think Bissaka intended to touch him, well, that's just ridiculous, right? Because we've seen David Luiz given for basically a feather touch, a red card away against Wolves. We all know that David Luiz was just running during that instance. He didn't even know he was in contact with anyone. So I know it's easy to look back at different instances, but it is quite a ridiculous thing to overturn. As we're talking on the refs, I think we should probably talk about a few other controversial decisions. So Neil, if you agree on that one, what were your thoughts on their calls for a penalty when Gabriel kind of leaned into Højlund a little bit later on? I can't remember at what minute of this game it was. It was later on, though, for sure. And when you rewatch it, were we a little bit lucky to get away with it? Do you remember that incident where he kind of leans in, his left arm's out in front of him? I don't think necessarily. I think it's more of sort of Gabriel. I don't really think he stops him getting to the ball as such, because I think Saliba's already there. But it could get given, I guess. I don't know what your thoughts are on it.
I think we got a bit lucky with decisions. Normally they go against us, even if it's unjust. We always tend to come a cropper in these situations. I agree with Adam. I don't think the Havertz one was a pen, but it's the overturning, which was ridiculous. Even Gary Neville was shouting, "That's really bizarre." That normally doesn't happen like that, but it is what it is, and it's ended up being academic. But there was two that I felt. It was that one so you got a bit forward in the game. After their super signings come on. I've seen those given. However, for me, I thought it was just a strong defender and a bit of a coming together of two players. I don't think it would have been very harsh, I think, if the penalty was given. I just think Gabriel was strong. He's got his arm out, because that's the way, players trying to get balance when they're trying to tackle. I don't think it would have been a harsh decision to give a penalty for me. So I think the right decision was made there. And I think the other one was even when Declan Rice scored his from the corner, they're talking about Johnny Evans being fouled by Gabriel.
I see nothing in that. I see absolutely nothing in that. I'm not even sure if Gabriel's being fouled, but there's nothing in it.
Yeah.
No, but they still reviewed it, didn't they? They still bloody went to VAR for it.
Yeah.
It's so annoying. It's like, what's wrong with that? So for me, no, I don't. I think it would have been harsh if it was given. I don't think it was a pen, but
yeah,
I think it was coming together of two players for me.
Yeah, no, that's a good way to explain. I actually do agree with that. I also think Lindelof's a little lucky on Eddie Nketiah, because I think he is probably the last man, but it's far enough from goal to not give it as a red. But it's a really reckless challenge that could give it as a red. Like when you watch it slow-mo, he literally kicks him in the head, doesn't he? He's nowhere near the ball. And I think he's a little lucky to get away with it. I think he's a little lucky. So I think, if we agree on that, let's go to, Adam, let's go to the offside then. So I think there's more to talk about on the offside, because obviously, like I said, I felt like you. I think Arteta made a really good comment in the week. I think Declan Rice made a good comment about Arteta, and he said he's kind of taught me when to slow the game down and just stand still. And I felt at times we were doing that in the second half, almost like we were just gauging when was the right moment to try to pounce on this lot, because they were delighted to get up. But let's be honest, if they got it, it would have been a snatch and grab. But they would have been absolutely delighted to get a point, especially with their calls for the amount of injuries they've had, despite the fact the centre-back pairing they actually ended up with was still about 40 million more than our first choice centre-back pairing. So again, when they moan about the Glazers and the ownership and the backing, that's not helping your case. That's just explaining the fact that you've spent money badly, which is probably on your coaches because you backed them. So, but it was a really good move by Man U. I think it's fair to say it was a good move by them. I think Jesus gets tackled, shows a little bit too much of the ball. It's a good move. Saliba steps up, gets done a little bit by Højlund. Talk to me about the offside and what your thoughts were on it, and Gabriel's part in it, Adam.
Yeah, this goal is why I don't tweet during games anymore, because I had the full emotional, we deserved that, this was walking pace, and then it was disallowed, and the minute that offside came up on the screen, it was like full release of stress, and I was like, right, let's go again. But yeah, it was one of those where it's a nice touch from Højlund. As you say, Saliba gets caught, he overcommits. I actually thought it was a foul on Gabriel Jesus. I thought the other way around, they probably would have got a free kick for that. I've watched it back and still think that. And it's one of those 9 times out of 10, you just blow up for that. But Casemiro's pass is excellent, really nice through ball. And I actually thought that was the only notable thing Casemiro did all day. I thought he was completely overrun. I looked at his touches last night, and he played about 64 passes in that game, which shows how many sideways, backwards passes he played in that game. The fact that it's about 70 minutes in before I actually noticed him on the pitch. I felt he was completely overrun by our midfield, but with the goal, he's in the right place. It's the perfect weight on the ball. It's a really nice ball, and Garnacho's run, finish, all excellent. I do really like Garnacho. I think he's a really, really big talent, and but he's at United, so they'll probably mismanage him. A bit like the Rashford goal, though, I did have question marks about Ramsdale's position, and he doesn't commit, so he kind of comes, stops, and he's inside his box. And it's one of those, I think he's thinking, I'm going to make the striker make the decision. Obviously, the striker makes the right decision, but Ramsdale's very much rooted to the spot. Yeah. And there's a good 5, 6, maybe 7 yards where Garnacho's running at him, where Ramsdale's literally frozen, which means, obviously, he's on his toes, but your diving position from there, you are very rigid and you're holding your place. So really, you're hoping that your presence is either going to make the striker put it straight at you or wide, which is taking a big risk. And I didn't really like that from Ramsdale. I thought he could have done better. But then, obviously, the goal was ruled out, and we saw the Gabriel motion back, and that was brilliant. And I've been such a champion of Gabriel coming back into the team from day one. I've just never understood him being left out. I understand the experimenting, but him being taken out of the team isn't something that I get. And yeah, I've seen United fans saying Arsenal fans are ridiculous. Gabriel gets lucky. It's a deliberate movement. Of course, everything about sport, there is an element of luck. But if you have a very deliberate action where you read a piece of play and it comes off in your favour, of course there is that element of luck where the striker, there's two people involved. But it was just such a brilliant piece of play, and the awareness from him to literally kind of freeze himself and try and pull his whole body upwards. Just really brilliant play, and obviously it gave us the decision we needed at that time because it was huge. So yeah, massive sense of relief, and I'm so glad I didn't go on Twitter and just start putting out a load of nonsense.
Yeah, I know. I do the odd tweet at half time every now and then, but I'm not very good in games either. I'm going to just wait and see what happens. But I was still frustrated when it didn't get given because I felt like you mentioned that we were too passive and we hadn't pushed enough in the second half. But that was all to come, I guess. But yeah, Gabriel, in fairness, the luck part is I felt Gabriel could have been with the line already, and I think he realised that, and he was like, I'm 3 yards too deep here. Yeah. But the correction was a brilliant watch. I mean, if you watch it again and again, it just gets better and better. And I agree with you on Ramsdale. I don't think his footwork's very good. I don't want to go back to it, but I do not think his footwork's very good. I think that was the issue on the first goal when Sleeper and White were basically covering one corner and Ramsdale's rooted to his spot in the middle of the goal. And I'm like, he's not getting it through two players, so there's literally one side of the goal you've got to cover. And I just, when you rewatch it, I just think I've seen that a few times with Ramsdale. Go back to last season with De Bruyne's shot from about 25 yards, where he just side foots it into the net and everyone goes, amazing goal. And I'm like, hold on a minute, that doesn't look right. There's something off here. And you can see that Ramsdale's rooted to his spot. And yeah, but amazing sort of, I don't know what it was, release of emotions when you go from 2-1 to 1-1 and thinking you can still win it. Because at that point, you're 2-1 down with 87th minute. You're not winning the game most likely. But I think we have to talk about the subs. I think we've got to talk about the subs. They were all really impactful, and I'd probably include Tomiyasu in that as well, in a certain degree, because I think I thought he was good in his build-up, which he gets a lot of criticism for, that he doesn't, he doesn't mimic what Zinchenko can do going forward. But I actually think he's a little bit underrated going forward. He's obviously not at Zinchenko's level, who I thought was also very, very good. But Neil, I guess we should start again with Fabio Vieira, because he's the player that we were talking about earlier as a player that could potentially play in the left 8, which is really interesting because in pre-season he was actually filtering more to the 10 and maybe even into Saka's role. So he's clearly got options there. But again, really, really impactful in this game. Just looks so confident on the ball. And I wonder if he was 6 foot, whether he'd be in the team already, to be honest. I wonder if that's the reluctance, the physical side of him. I hope it's not that, because maybe he looks at Odegaard and Vieira and thinks that's too lightweight. But I thought for this game it would have been perfect, because who do they play in the midfield? Well, they play Eriksen and Fernandes, and they're dodgy as well. They're defensively rubbish. So I was like, I would have played Vieira in this game. But again, he's using every minute he can. Again, he had 100% pass accuracy. I know he played 25 minutes, but that's 2 games in a row. 100% pass accuracy. He played 40 minutes against Fulham. So you can't do much more, can he, Neil?
No. I was actually thinking he should be there instead of Havertz from the start. But we're not going to get that. Maybe now we might. Who knows? But I think he's a tremendous player that has gone through a bad spell, and now all of a sudden he's showing us what he was. We had it in glimpses when he first joined. I don't know if you remember. When he first came on board, we thought, wow, there's a player there. And then all of a sudden he just kind of went downhill and was overlooked. And we thought, oh, God, what's going to happen to him? Is he going to be one of these which just gets sidelined and then maybe goes on loan and then we never see him again? And all of a sudden he's been tenacious. And as you said, he's not wasting his opportunities, although they're so fleeting. And I just feel my only criticism is that he should be coming on a lot earlier if he is going to be a substitute, because he's on form. A player on form. I've always said that you play your best players in their best positions when they're at their peak. And I'm sorry, he's at his peak and he should be playing. I just feel that we're making too many sacrifices for Havertz at the moment, and I don't want this to be a Havertz destruction pod, but I just feel that, at the end of the day, you've got to exercise a bit of common sense here. He's bang on form. He's composed. He's confident. His awareness is great as well. And the kind of pass that he made for Jesus' goal is the kind of stuff that he does. It's just a tremendous player. And when you're on that level of being on a high as a player, you've got to be playing. And if you don't get selected. You're like, what more can I do? 100% pass accuracy in 65 minutes. Who does that? Not many players can do that. I just think he gives the team so much more in terms of the options and his creativity. I think I would be putting him in the starting lineup from after the international break. I think he's on that kind of level that he should be, and it'd be a crime to omit him. But I think all the substitutions were great. I was a little bit hesitant when I was at the Fulham game, and I said to you on the pod, I said I was surprised that Jesus came on. I wanted Nelson to come on. This time I got my wish. They both came on, and I thought, Jesus was great, as you saw. What composure to finish that goal was just great. And then Nelson, what he did was brilliant. I don't think he put a foot wrong. He's energetic. He can cause havoc, like you were saying last season. He's like, you were saying that he comes on and he's like almost like he revels in the chaos, if you like. And then even Tomiyasu, I thought, again, a bit like Vieira, we're getting the Tomiyasu that we saw when he first came on board. We thought, this guy's come on, jumped off the plane, and he's like taken to this role with aplomb. He's brilliant. What a find. I was calling him the Terminator, the T-101, I remember. It's just brilliant. And I thought his forward play, and he just, again, another player who was looking composed and confident. And if you've got that in your substitutes, firstly, what a substitutes bench it is. What a bench. We never used to have that. Look at the players that we can bring on. But, they deserve more time. So hopefully now we'll see that. But you know what? Even having seen how good Jesus was, I would still go with Eddie maybe for a couple more games because he deserves it. I don't think he might have started flagging a little bit in the game yesterday, but I think Eddie is still playing some of the best football that I've seen him in an Arsenal shirt, to be honest. So, but I was so happy with the substitutions. Just bring them on a bit earlier. That's all.
Yeah, I know. I agree with that. And on Eddie, I agree with you for another reason. And I think we rushed Jesus back last year, and maybe that was because Eddie wasn't on the form that he's on now. But I don't think we got the best of Jesus in the last sort of 7-8 games. He came back a little bit, but you could tell it wasn't quite the normal Jesus. And we need to ease him in. We need to be really careful and ease him in, because if we can get him back to 100%, I don't think there's a better striker in the league other than Haaland. I genuinely think that. I mean, Pep used to say he's the best defensive striker in the league. And I think I understand what he means in terms of his link-up play and his unselfishness and his ability to work in all different directions. He's just unbelievable when he's fit. And he's not even there yet. And he's if he could add a little bit of finishing to it, fantastic. But really, I don't even care. He's just so good. And I had someone argue with me. He looks slow, Jesus. I think you're going to replace him, they said after this game. And I went, you don't watch Arsenal. I said, we'll leave it there because you don't watch Arsenal. I was like, if you watch Arsenal, you would not be saying that about Jesus. Just keep him fit, get him fit. But I agree with you on all this. I think Nelson's arguably one of the best impact subs in the league at this point. I'm not as confident with him from the start, but if you bring him on, I'm like, he's going to do something, which is amazing. But I don't think we can. I mean, thoughts on the subs. Tomiyasu is. Do we all feel Tomiyasu is probably, if he can stay fit, is our best answer to the Timber lost conundrum in the sense of defensive stability, still providing something going forward, being able to play both sides. He probably is, isn't he? It's just keeping him fit. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. We'll talk about that a little bit. But feel free to touch on the subs, Adam. But if not, how many times have you rewatched the Declan Rice moment? And he was the player of the game. And I've waited for this. He was the player of the game. He had the most passes other than Saliba. He was everywhere. I was a little bit hesitant with him playing as the lone six in this game because it was the first time I've seen him in a big game in the lone six, I feel. He's played in a lot of different positions and he's always had sort of Partey next to him in the inverted role. I think Zinchenko helped a lot with that, to be honest, as well. But he was brilliant, Adam. I mean, you wanted this signing more than pretty much anyone else. So I think he's been fantastic in these first 4 games. But this one, he's getting better and better.
Yeah, 100%. Whenever I came on this pod last season, I talked about how much I wanted Rice. I was never so sure of the signing that it was going to work out. But recently, I've been thinking a lot about that lone six role and thinking, does anyone actually play a lone six? Because with Zinchenko in the team, you're not a lone six. Rodri has John Stones coming in and joining him, and out of position. They have Kovacic and whoever's playing the right 8 dropping back in. Same with us. Odegaard drops back very fast, and Havertz does his defensive work as well. But I was really, really impressed with Declan Rice yesterday. I just thought it was a real monster performance. One of those. And I did feel as well, though, that what you'd said earlier about Arteta telling him to slow the game down, he did that. And there were times where he had a couple of carries through the middle where we saw him really do that Declan Rice thing, put the cape on. And there were other times where you could see his instinct was, I'm going to charge. And then he turned back and he gave a pass. And it was clearly that Arteta thing where you're not playing at West Ham anymore. You give it back. Recycle it, we'll start again, we'll draw them out, keep it going. And time again, he was doing that. And he was the one that was looking for the ball. He was organising, he was leading. And I just think you've got Saliba as a leader behind him. Gabriel just doesn't stop talking. Odegaard. And obviously Jesus, when he comes on, is just he's just snappy, he's loud, he's just annoying for the opposition. One of those players, if he's not in your team, you hate him. And then, so when Rice was the one to score that goal, I think after the performance, I was absolutely buzzing. I went mental in the house, and my wife was sitting downstairs at TV, and she was like, the house was shaking, and it was one of those moments where I was just buzzing when he scored it. It was the control with his chin. But I don't know about you guys, but whenever he controlled the ball, everything seemed to slow down.
Yeah,
and it was and then the minute it's whenever they edit a TV ad and there'll be the touch and then it goes into massive slow-mo and then they speed up the shot. That's what it felt like in real time. And I think...
Wasn't it similar from the Nelson moment, was it? In the sense of controls the ball, hold your breathish moment. That was a bit like that.
100%. It's funny though, when Nelson came on, I thought, we're going to have a Bournemouth here. And it was just because I saw Nelson, the TV panned straight up to him. But I thought he was very good when he came on. He was really getting loads of touches in the box, really going at them. But yeah, when Declan Rice scored that, I was just absolutely buzzing. I think it's one of those, every signing needs a moment. And I think it's one of those, that is something I was saying on our pod last night. In 15 years' time, Arsenal's social media team will be sharing that goal and that moment and the reaction with the fans and everything. But what impressed me the most was, I think a year ago, we had so much emotion in our performances and we didn't have the emotion. We weren't overloading them. We weren't pinging balls into the box. We were just so sort of composed and I was getting really frustrated by it because I was thinking, go at them. But there just seemed to be this total confidence in what we were doing. And then when we scored, obviously there's massive celebrations in the corner. Rice is loving it. But we go back and we just reset and it went into this ultra professional, level-headed moment. And then it leads to the second goal or third goal. But I was just really impressed with kind of how we went from up here to straight back into, we're a grown-up team now. We need to see this game out. And that's something that I haven't really seen from Arsenal before. So I do think a year ago, given the emotion and the amount of time that was still played after that goal, we could have very easily conceded, and it went through each. We've seen that for 20 years from Arsenal, whereas I just felt that after that moment, that's when Saliba, Gabriel, Rice again, Odegaard came off, but all those kind of key players, their maturity kicked in. And again, Tomiyasu, I thought he was just excellent from the minute he came on. So that side of the game impressed me as much as our kind of quest to get the goal. So yeah, just buzzing.
Yeah, and I was really impressed with how he kept it down as well, because it took a while to drop from his chin or chest, and you see those all the time late on balloon over the bar. You know, the Thomas Partey moment against Southampton and all that kind of stuff. But he just kept his head, and you could tell he just like want to hit hard and low and on target, and something might happen. And it was great to see the little flick from Evans and Onana flapping, and it was just perfect. It was poetic justice, really, to score in time that was added on because they were wasting it from the 14th minute. It's fantastic, isn't it? And you just really enjoy those moments. And this time added on has worked out pretty well for us this season. But it works out pretty well for us because we don't do a lot of the time wasting. So that's why really it works out for us. But Neil, you got to talk about Declan Rice before going to the third goal. He has been fantastic, and he's played in a lot of different kind of positions in these first 4 games. It's not been like slot-ins. He's played in the left day. He's played with different partners. He's shown a lot of different areas of strength that he's got, and I think he just keeps getting better. I think.
They say you know what's that saying? You get what you pay for, and it's certainly that. 100%. I know.
Unless you're Chelsea and you sign Moyes' Concedo, as I call him, because he keeps conceding every game. Carry on.
Yeah, exactly. But at the end of the day, I think he's well worth the money. I mean, I think money's ridiculous in football anyway. But if we're going to go down that road, he is actually one of the ones exceptions which are worth every grain of rice. I'd say, not every penny. I love him. I think he's maturing like a fine wine. He's getting better and better. I was saying earlier in the pods of the season, he's going to just get better and better. He took a little bit of time because he came into training late, and I thought that he wasn't fully fit when he was fit, maybe the first couple of games. But every single game, you've seen a stark improvement, and I think this was the pinnacle of it. And I think he's still going to improve. And he said it. I love what he said to Roy Keane. He goes, "So, what did you think, Roy?" Oh, I loved that. Oh, that was brilliant about his goal. I love that. For me was the line.
I've not watched that bit yet.
But he's so good when he talks. But you know, we can go on for a day about his footballing, which I think is great. He actually prefers playing in the 6. I was surprised because I thought that he would become if he was alongside Partey, or as you were saying earlier, Zinchenko. I thought maybe he might be doing a little bit more what Xhaka was doing. But actually, he was on that interview and he said he prefers the 6 role, but he's learning to play the 8 role. He said Arteta is asking me to learn to play both sides of the game, or that position, or just exploit it a little bit more and have that versatility. But I just feel that the way he comes across as a person as well is massive for our club. I know Odegaard's the captain, and rightly so, because he leads by example. But if ever there's a moment where he can't play, touch wood, there won't be, but if there is, Rice is for me the natural successor to come in and lead that team, because he's a spokesman. If you notice, all the interviews, it's him now. It's always him. Yeah. He's become the spokesman of the club. And he speaks really well as well. You've got to remember, he's not that old, and I think he's really mature for his age. But he's great. He's a great asset to have, and what he's doing on the pitch, he controlled that game completely. He bossed the midfield. He was in control. He was the daddy, and there was no way that he was going to let anyone usurp him in that game. And they didn't actually announce officially. I don't know if you saw it, Adam, the man of the match, but I presume he got it. And he should have done.
He posted on Instagram.
Perfect. Then. Perfect. So. Deserved, rightly so, and deserved. And Adam, what he was saying earlier about the leaders, we have got them in abundance now. We've got all different types of leaders in their own way, but they are. And Gabriel, just touching back, rewinding a little bit, completely agree with you. Why has he been omitted? What a player he is! Just to adapt to this new system. No. You cannot leave a good player like Gabriel out. And I think he's such a foil for Saliba. You cannot leave him out. And I don't want him to revert back to what his experimentation was when we come back from the international break. You've seen, Arteta, that this is more solid. Our defence is a lot better playing this way. Got to keep to it. But because I'm with Adam. I was euphoric when that goal went in. Absolutely euphoric. So happy for him. And it's exactly what he wanted. I want to score goals and I want to take Arsenal to the next level. That's what he's saying. That's what he's there for. This is why we brought him in. And that's why Arteta's been chasing him for a long time. It's all come together now. Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah, the absolute hand... The hand to the crowd was just immense, and the noise just sounded like it looked like a game it would just have been amazing to be at. And then the third comes along, and it reminded me of the Villa goal. The 4-2 goal against Villa, when very similar ball from Martinelli to Vieira to Martinelli. This time it was Gabriel Jesus, and honestly, rewatching it, I had no idea who the defender was, but I was praying it was Harry Maguire because it would have made it so much funnier, wouldn't it? But then I thought about it and I was like, he would have dove with his head, the flipping plonker. So, but it was Diego Dalot who did quite well against Saka, but he won't be remembered for that. He'll be remembered for sliding all the way into the touch with Gabriel. If you watch it in slow-mo, it is amazing because it looks like he is going to shoot until the last possible second and he just cuts back. But it's a great finish. It's a great turn and finish. And it's great for Gabriel Jesus, to be honest, to get off the mark, because he had that early injury and missed a bit of pre-season and to the end of pre-season. And
he's never scored against Man U as well. So great.
Hasn't he really? Oh, I didn't know that. And his record when scoring is like you don't lose.
Never lost. You've never lost.
Which is amazing. So
amazing.
Brilliant. Need him to be on the score sheet more often. That's what that says. So, but it was a fantastic way to end the game. At that point, that was when I went into hysterical laughter in the third one. I said to Neil, I was like Heath Ledger in the flipping Joker. I was like, I cannot wait to watch Man U fans during this moment, and I will spend a good hour doing that. But what a game! 10 points over 4 games. I think that's encouraging. Adam, I mean, at the start of the season, would you taking it? It's all dependent on City largely, who are faultless at the moment. So I guess any drop points is frustrating. And when you look at the Fulham game against 10 men, you shouldn't drop those points. But you almost look at this game and think, well, it could have been very, very different in this game, despite deserving to win the game. I mean, it was a 3-1 game. It was a 2.5 XG to 0.7. And that doesn't include a penalty that we probably should have had, which would have been about 0.7, 0.8. We forgot to mention the huge Saka chance as well in the second half from a lovely move again.
He had to score that.
He had to, and he had a really poor game. Some people even saying he got lucky not to be sent off. I think that was a harsh one in the sense of he got fouled before it, so he just fallen to the floor. He hasn't gone diving in on someone. His legs have just flailed from that, and I think you boys would probably agree on that. But it's 10 points from 4 games. Lovely way to go into the international break. It would have been really hard. And we come back from the international break to a really tough game for us, which is Everton away. It doesn't matter where Everton are in the league. We know going to Goodison Park for us is and going to Sean Dyche is a double whammy. So
we beat him yesterday.
And
we beat the Dutch fan, Sean Dyche.
Yeah, we beat the Dutch Sean Dyche yesterday. Yeah, absolutely. We did. Very true. So maybe that preps us for a game like that because they'll set up in a similar fashion. But just before we go, transfer window closed. We didn't get anyone in. The Partey injury, we don't know how much we knew about it before the window closed. I think Adam, you mentioned, I think you did on Twitter that you feel we've probably left ourselves a little bit short. I presume the club knows that with the Timber injury occurring. Do you think it's just the fact that, financially we probably didn't have the ability to go and get that extra signing, or perhaps the extra signing wasn't available for us because it was something that had come up just because of the Timber injury? And, I mean, obviously you have concerns.
Yeah, I think I'm not massively concerned. I think we're maybe one short, and I think it is directly as a result of the Timber injury, because I think we've had a really, really strong window. And I also tweeted on deadline day that I would much rather Arsenal wait until January, reassess, find out how long Timber's going to be out, because we're here in March as well. So we're hearing the ACL isn't as bad as some ACL injuries, and it could be March by the time he's back. So let's wait and see on that. It's Arsenal. Probably won't be, but I would rather us reassess in January than on deadline day. I don't know about you guys, but I was watching like move after move, and players being linked to clubs, bids going in. And I was thinking, there isn't a single one of these players that I would want in that Arsenal squad or I think is good enough to play for us. So there were a lot of people talking about Bella Kocha and Walker Peters. Southampton have just sold Ward-Prowse, Lavia, and they were both very good last season. But how many players do you take from a team that were absolutely battered last season? And for me, it's if these players were good enough, they would have moved early in the window. No one has picked them up. Bella Kocha, I think, ended up getting a loan move somewhere, but for me, I would much rather Arsenal give someone like Royal Walters a chance in the cup games and late in games, get those young players integrated and give them a bit of a chance because I think they're actually good enough and they're pushing to be good enough for this first team. They're learning how to play the way Arteta wants. And it's panic buys that have got us into the situation that has involved loads of contract terminations and us still having some of these players now, almost 4 years on, that just aren't good enough for Arsenal. So, yes, I think we are probably one short, but the big thing I didn't want to see from Arsenal was this panic buying. It's crazy that we've spent, 220 mil? And then Reyes deal, if he goes permanent, we start next season on minus 27 million. And that's something that I don't think people will take into account next summer. That it's not about just adding bodies, it's about getting the right talents. And I think we've absolutely nailed it, especially with Timber and Rice this summer. Ray is a really good keeper, and let's see how it goes. But I do agree with you on the finance side. I think the money wasn't there. And the way Arsenal are run, we can't just keep spending in the way Chelsea have. But even Chelsea, if you look at them, as much as I want to stick the knife into them, they brought a lot of money in through sales, and Chelsea won't be able to do that next season. We've already seen Cucurella refusing to move because he's on a massive contract. And they've sold all their academy players who were on low wages, very talented players, and they brought a lot of money in that way. They sold Kovacic, Havertz, and Mount, 3 Champions League winners who have all performed at the top level. This latest group of players, it will be a long time before they ever earn that kind of recognition. So yeah, I think if we were able to sell the way they were, we possibly would have brought one more in. But I think the two for us that really prevented us signing was Tierney and Tavares. That's, even if we got 40 million for the pair of them, I think that would have led to us getting another signing. And the fact they've both gone out on loan, they were the seals that would have topped up the pot. And unfortunately, that's an area where Arsenal really need to improve on next summer.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think we've probably got a player in mind because I think we probably did want one more. We probably did expect to get money in for Tierney and Tavares, and the fact that we didn't maybe held us back on that. And I understand. I mean, it's frustrating, and I don't really understand why we struggle with certain sales so much when I see other teams getting money for just absolute crap players, Dross, and people like, look at Koulibaly on 325 grand a week and they get basically their money back on him, and he had a dreadful last season, and obviously that's partly because of Saudi Arabia and Todd Bowley's link and PIF investment and all that kind of stuff, but still, Liverpool getting 50 million for Fabinho and Henderson, that would never happen to us, so it's just a little bit frustrating. Certainly on the Tierney one, you thought you would get money in there. Neil, we possibly are one short. I think Adam's right. The right back, the right centre back positions are probably the concerns now. Even though Tierney and Tavares went, you do feel like left back there are options there. With Tomiyasu and Kivior if Zinchenko's not fully fit, which I think we have to expect at some point this season. But it is probably the right centre back / right back area that we would be looking to get someone in January. We're going to lose Tomiyasu in January, but not until like the middle of January. But I don't think we lose Partey if he's fit. That is because Ghana didn't qualify. I don't believe so. It probably would still be hoping in for a defensive sign in January, and hope we get away with it till then, I guess.
Yeah, I think so. I think Adam's right. I think we are one short there. I'm not too worried about Partey. I think we've done a clock. I think he'll be back in about 3 weeks.
You think we've done that, do you? That would be hilarious.
It'll be so. It's so unlike Arsenal to do it, but I've just got this funny feeling. I don't think it's as bad as it might be appearing to us. Anyway, it's me being hopeful. Don't know. let's wait and see. But it'd be amazing if he's back after the international break. I'll be laughing. I'll be laughing because we never did that, and I always used to say we should be doing that. Do it.
Absolutely,
we used to say even when Wenger was in charge, we said do it.
Yeah.
I think. Do you know what? I'm still reading from the Timber injury. I think it's so unfortunate to a player that just looked like wow. I was saying right from the start, I think he's going to be the player of the season. I know there's all this talk about Rice and Havertz. At the time, we didn't know what he was going to bring. But I thought out of those three, he's going to be absolutely phenomenal. And my only thing now I'm concerned about it is I just hope he's not one of these players that suffer as a result of an ACL. I just hope he comes back just as strong when he does return.
Yeah.
Maybe
he was
because
there in
he's
the stadium, wasn't he, yesterday?
Yeah, I think he will. I think he looks like a strong individual, and I think he will be okay. Let's just hope that he's managed correctly during his rehabilitation process. So let's hope for that. But one thing that came to mind that Adam mentioned is we haven't actually gone external with that replacement or someone to cover, at least on loan maybe. But I think maybe it might be an opportunity for one of the academy guys to come in. Because, we've done well with it in recent years. Of course, you can see it from the Howlin boys. And I just feel that maybe it'll be a chance, if we do need that cover, maybe bring in one of those, try it. If you don't try, you don't get. So I just feel that maybe it would be a great opportunity. So there might be some light from the Timber injury. Maybe it's me just trying to get some solace from it because it's a real hard one to take. 45 minutes and that's it. It's just horrible. Maybe that was a good thing that it happened so early, so we weren't we come to rely on him. He could be one of those players that we can't lose him. We can't lose him. We lose him, and it completely derails the whole season. Yeah. So maybe there is some positives to take from it. But I think it might be an opportunity for one of the younger players to come in, and that'd be great to see because as Adam said, there's some great talent there, and they're aware of how Arteta plays. So it could be good for us in a way. But yeah. As a summary, we are one short, I believe.
Yeah, got about 80 million-ish or just over, maybe closer to 90 for sales. Holding ended up being like a 3 million total with add-ons, which was a bit of a joke, wasn't it, to Palace? Mm-hmm. And wish him well. Was it around that, Adam? Something like that?
1 million plus 2.5 in add-ons.
Oh, gosh. Which is a bit of a joke.
That big Palace account, is it HLTCO?
Yes, the Palace fan.
He put a tweet out saying, given the state of the market and to get a Premier League proven defender for 1 million is absolutely outrageous. This could be the signing in the summer. We chose
could be
absolutely insane. How are we so bad at selling?
I know we are, and people try to spin it. In every which way, and I'm like, you can't spin some of this. Some of this is just like Balogun's fine. It's a decent sale, and I thought Xhaka was decent money.
Yeah.
But there's some which you really have to scratch your head. I mean, Rob Holding's not on a big wage. He's experienced. He's 40 grand a week. He's to me, he's better than Harry Maguire. I personally think in a deep block, Rob Holding's a player you probably want. And Palace play that sometimes. Though I think they're a bit more expensive now, but they do play in that way sometimes. So I think he'll do really well there. And it's a little bit frustrating. You're just not getting more money for some of these players that have a lot of Premier League experience or have a lot of potential talent that you're seeing. But hey ho, look, brilliant way to end the first part of the season as we go into the international break. Hopefully everyone stays fit. Hopefully Neil is right on Thomas Partey. I don't know if I hold too much optimism along that, but that would be fantastic. He needs to retire from international football. The guy can't even play once a week in club football. Retire from international. Ghana ain't going nowhere. I mean, congrats, Ghana. You're fantastic to watch and stuff, but Partey's he's travelling too far. The guy has to take his physio everywhere with him. I think it's time he retired. He's getting on a bit. So I would hope he does that sooner rather than later. But we usually do predictions, but it feels too far away to do a prediction for Everton game. It's like 2 weeks away. But we might come back and do a sort of a preview to that next week or something like that. But hopefully all the players stay injury free. Hopefully a few of them pull out of the internationals. Adam, pleasure to have you on. You're on the Arsenal Therapy podcast. It's on Twitter as well. You do a 15-minute show like almost every day, don't you, during the season?
Yeah, twice a week. So we will be doing that on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and we had you on last Tuesday. So thanks for coming on. It was great to speak to you. So yeah, and thanks for having me today. So yeah, we'll be doing the main pod once a week, and then the two YouTube shows where we'll be doing a loan focus and then probably a preview show. So
stuff.
yeah.
And you can follow them at Arsenal Therapy on Twitter. And Neil, we know where you are on Twitter. You're basically famous. Get verified soon, won't you? You're going to pay for it. But thank you, boys. It's a pleasure to have you both on. We're still there. 3 wins out of 4, and we're going to come back stronger after the break, hopefully. Fingers crossed up the Arsenal. Thank you, boys.